office in his final 2 weeks, all because of this scene, and more importantly, the much more dangerous scene we saw earlier in the daylight hours at the United States Capitol. And to echo what Phil Mattingly just said, I've been in communications with some leadership aides on both sides, both in the Senate, the Republican leadership still in the Senate, and the Democratic leadership in the House, about how important both leaders, Speaker Pelosi and Leader McConnell, believe it is to get back in that building tonight, and to at least get back. Whether they finish tonight, I think, is an open question. That depends on whether you have more objections. But they both believe it is absolutely critical to send the signal that you may have disrupted us, you may have knocked us out of the building, but you will not stop us from doing what we came to do today, which is supposed to be a cherished constitutional tradition in the United States, embracing and affirming and accepting the election of Joe Biden as President of the United States.
A peaceful transfer of power. That's what we've always seen. Alex Marquardt, what's going on where you are, Alex?
Well, Wolf, we are back on the western side of the Capitol. What you can hear there is a flashbang, presumably from this police force that has just moved in. Wolf, what you're looking at now is Metropolitan Police from Washington, D.C., who just before this 6 p.m. curfew have moved in here to push out the rioters. They have been shouting, "Move back," at this crowd of hundreds, if not more, Trump supporters on the western side of the Capitol building. This, Wolf, is where in exactly 14 days' time, President-elect Biden will be inaugurated. In the background, you can see the Washington Monument. The police have now decided, after several hours of this huge mass gathering on the western side of the Capitol, to flush them out. We have heard reports of tear gas. I have not seen that in the last few moments, but there's no question that the Metropolitan Police Department, as well as the other law enforcement agencies, will not hesitate. Here we're being asked to move back. Yes, officer, we will. You can see this officer, for example, fully equipped with riot control gear. And as I was saying, Wolf, we do not get the impression that they will hesitate to use those riot control measures to get these masses of rioters away from the Capitol, which they attacked and have been, which they got into over the course of the afternoon, Wolf.
Yeah, they should use all means necessary to get this under control. This is a disgrace, what's going on up on Capitol Hill right now. Just be careful over there. You know, we'll stay in very close touch with you, Alex, and we can see crowds are still there, John King. We can see them. They're beginning to leave, but it's a really dangerous situation. Donnie O'Sullivan is still there. Donnie, tell us.
Hey, Wolf. Yeah, some tear gas was deployed here in the past few minutes. That's why you're seeing these people coming down, the sort of last stragglers, really, who are here left at the Capitol. We've seen thousands of people move off the lawn in the past few hours, and they've all been telling us how proud they are to be a part of this mob. They're repeating all the conspiracy theories that President Trump has been spewing for months and that he spewed outside the White House today. And it's really just quite a surreal scene here, and I think we better move beyond this police line, as they're really now moving all of us out of here, Wolf.
Yeah, I just want you to be careful, Donnie. Be careful over there. Go ahead, Donnie.
We're just hearing some really, vile language being directed at members of the media. People just, again, repeating these lies. People who are totally in denial that in just a few weeks, only a few hundred feet from here, Joe Biden is going to be inaugurated President of the United States. And you can see we're stepping over the fences and barriers that were broken by these members of this mob earlier today. We were here, we marched from the White House after Trump's address. We marched with Trump supporters, and when they breached this barrier, it's happened all of a sudden shortly after he concluded speaking, and people just started pushing and moving up, and we've seen destruction all around this area, Wolf, and we keep hearing over and over again. I just heard somebody else saying, this is just the beginning. Wolf?
Yeah, I assume they're saying, Donnie, what the president himself just said in this videotape that he posted on Twitter, that he said the election was stolen. It was a landslide election that he claims he won. He says everyone knows it, especially the other side. These are total lies. But it comes from the President of the United States, and it's encouraging these rioters to do what they're doing, right?
Hey guys, come here. Oh, Sam, over here.
Yeah, that's right, Wolf. And I mean, you and I have discussed how conspiracy theories have really are now playing such a prominent role in American life that you're seeing this all play out here. You know, we've spoken for years about Facebook and Twitter and their failure to act on conspiracy theories and hateful speech online. And we're seeing the results of that play out here on the streets of our nation's capital today. I mean, we're beyond the fact. In 2016, we heard about Russia trolls and people tried to write off anything about social media, saying, "Oh, it's only a few Facebook posts. What harm?" Here's the harm: the harm of conspiracy theories, the harm of lies, the harm of people living in these online and Trump media echo chambers where they are so deluded,
and you hear
they can't get to grips with reality and understand that Joe Biden will soon be president. Wolf?
In 14 days, he will become the president of the United States. Donnie, just be careful over there. I know that we're less than a half an hour from the curfew that will be imposed here in the nation's capital. Hard to believe that this is going on at this sensitive moment right now. Brian Todd, you're getting more information as well. What are you learning?
Well, Wolf, several law enforcement vehicles have just moved into the plaza on the east side of the Capitol. Also, a large fire truck, and as you can see over here, there's an ambulance. Eddie Gross, our photojournalist, will pan over there where they just put someone inside the ambulance. I believe they took that person out from inside the Capitol and put them in the ambulance. You see the riot police over here forming a line around the center steps of the east side of the Capitol. Short time ago, they moved the remaining rioters that were on the steps off slowly and peacefully. But, you know, look, as I heard Donnie and some of our colleagues saying earlier, a lot of these rioters are basically crowing that they believe that they kind of won the day here. I heard one rioter yell at the police, "You didn't take it back, we gave it back." So they have some swagger here tonight. Most of them have left the plaza at this point, but I think a big question now is what's security going to be like overnight and into tomorrow morning. I just heard Alex reporting that they're moving people off the west side, and we're expecting more police to come in shortly on the east side here as some stragglers remain. But, you know, the question is, are they going to clear everyone out of this plaza as they did in the morning? Because, again, I can't emphasize enough how quickly this all unraveled. You know, in the place where I'm standing right now, this was completely clear of people. The protesters were behind a barricade of, you know, just kind of behind us over here. And it just unraveled in an instant, both here on the east side and on the west side of the Capitol. Eddie, let's move over this way a little bit. And, you know, we can tell you that, you know, we did see some flashbangs and some smoke grenades going off over here on the north side of the Capitol a short time ago as they pushed rioters back. So the question is going to be, what is security going to be like here in the overnight hours and later tonight, Wolf?
Do these rioters, these mobsters, do they understand that there is a curfew that's going to go into effect in less than a half an hour, and that if they're on the streets of Washington, D.C., they could be arrested?
Well, Wolf, you know, we broadcast that, but we don't know how much.
You want to see pressception?
We're being harassed a little bit here, Wolf, so we have to.
Go ahead. Just be careful.
Why don't we throw
over
it back to you?
Ryan, be careful over there. I want you to be safe. John King, you know, it's hard to believe, John. People all over the world are watching what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now, including world leaders. I'm getting statements, John, from world leaders who are shocked. Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO Secretary General, says shocking scenes in Washington, D.C. The outcome of this democratic election must be respected. And there's more and more world leaders, John, people all over the world can't believe what's going on here in Washington, D.C. There's a threat to a peaceful transfer of power.
No, and these foot soldiers of a movement, they say, will make America great again, or making America an embarrassment to the world today. Wolf, Boris Johnson, the President's ally, the Prime Minister of the UK, issuing a very similar statement. I'm getting messages, as you are, from friends, from sources, from government officials, ambassadors around the world, some here in Washington representing overseas countries. They just simply don't understand what is going on. They can't believe what they are seeing in the United States of America, which is supposed to be the beacon of the global democracies. It's supposed to be, that shining city on a hill. It's supposed to be, as many of the conservative Republicans, helping the president with his fantasy challenge to an election that is over. They always say America is an exceptional. They're for an exceptional America. Well, this does not make America an exceptional. Respecting our norms and our democracy doesn't. To that point, Wolf, I want to come back to something you reported to our viewers earlier today about what we're seeing, the deployment of the National Guard. You read the statement from the acting defense secretary, where he said the acting defense secretary and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff spoke with the vice president, Speaker Pelosi, Leader McConnell, Senator Schumer, Representative Hoyer. What's missing? The president. They spoke to the vice president, not the president of the United States. Where is he? Does he not want any part of this? He's the president of the United States who doesn't attend coronavirus task force meetings, who refuses to meet with the experts on the pandemic that is sweeping across the country, and now the vice president has to coordinate with the Pentagon on the response? He's president for 2 more weeks. At least that's what the Constitution and the calendar says. But when you read that statement, it just jumped out at me that this is his job. It's thankful that the vice president's helping coordinate the security response here. Whether you agree or disagree with the Trump administration's politics, you should be grateful the vice president is helping with that. But where is the president at this time of national crisis that he won't get on that phone call and try to protect the Capitol, protect the lawmakers, and protect his country?
If the President of the United States, John, the Commander-in-Chief, isn't doing his job, even though there's only 14 days left, should the 25th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution be invoked, which namely suggests that members of the cabinet can come forward and say this president is unfit to be president, to be commander-in-chief?
As I noted earlier, there have been some Democrats who have said that today. There have even some Democrats who said let's impeach him in the final 2 weeks. A Republican manufacturing group, a Republican-leaning manufacturing group, the National Association of Manufacturers, has raised the 25th Amendment question today. There are 2 weeks left. It is impossible to see that happening. But what is just the stirring of this debate again? What does it tell you? That this administration, which has been toxic from the beginning, is even more toxic at the end, when you would think that even in a Trump administration, even for all the outrage and the disregard of norms and truths and institutions and facts and election math, you would think after all of that, the president, normally we think the president is about himself, that he would think, if I want to run again, if I want to have a legacy, I would at least exit with some dignity. But that's not happening, Wolf, which is why these questions will continue about impeachment, about the 25th Amendment, about his willingness, his ability, his capability to do his job to the very end.
We see a standoff unfolding between police and these rioters. Donnie O'Sullivan is watching it. You're right there, Donnie. Tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, Wolf, we are here at the police line. The police have pushed the members of this mob, these Trump supporters, away off the Capitol grounds, and we are here at the west front of the U.S. Capitol. We're actually at the spot where the barriers were originally broken earlier today when we were here, and it's quite surreal, Wolf, because we're seeing these Trump supporters shouting at these police, accusing these police of being traitors. Of course, we always hear from the Trump White House and Trump supporters how much they love the police, but seemingly not tonight. As we mentioned, tear gas was deployed a few minutes ago. That's how the police were able to move these people down off the lawn outside the U.S. Capitol, and you could still taste remnants of that tear gas in the air. But Wolf, and if our photojournalist Jeremy can just pan to left here, I mean, you see these Trump supporters, people wearing the MAGA hats, just shouting abuse at these members of the police in Washington who are doing their jobs. Wolf?
Yeah, all right, stand by, Donnie. I want to go back to Jake. Jake, I understand you have a special guest.
That's right, Wolf. Thanks so much. Joining us now on the phone, the mayor of Washington, D.C., Mayor Muriel Bowser. Mayor Bowser, thanks so much for joining us. You put in place a 6 p.m. curfew. How worried are you about what might come tonight in D.C.? We're already hearing from these, whatever you want to call them, rioters, terrorists, anarchists, insurrectionists. We're already hearing from them that they're planning to get even rougher when it gets darker.
Well, thanks, Jake, for having me on. We have a curfew in place, and we're advising everyone to leave the area, to vacate the Capitol grounds, and to go to their place of residence or wherever they're staying, and preferably go back to their state. What we've seen at the Capitol today is certainly unpatriotic. It's wrong and it's illegal. I have fully deployed the Metropolitan Police Department, the D.C. Police Department, to assist the U.S. Capitol Police. Our police have entered the building and will establish a perimeter and enforce our curfew.
I have to say, I'm surprised that these insurrectionist rioters were able to get into the Capitol to begin with. They were breaking windows. There was blood spilled. I know that the Capitol security is the responsibility of U.S. Capitol Police, and they don't report to you. They report to Congress. But what's your best understanding about why this was able to happen?
Well, certainly we are there to assist the U.S. Capitol Police with any and all requests. I think you know the very significant perimeters we established around D.C. streets, and we're right there to support them, and now to enter the building to make sure we have control and maintain control in order in the district overnight and over the next days.
Do you think if this was a Black Lives Matter protest, they would have been able to get into the Capitol and wreak the havoc that these pro-Trump people were able to cause? I mean, I think there are a lot of people watching this and saying it seems like there's a real double standard, that these MAGA protesters were able to commit acts of violence that they can't imagine any other group being able to cause in Congress.
Well, I can certainly talk about our response to all of the protests and our assistance to our federal partners and vice versa. And what we've seen here is a breach of our very democracy. And so we will continue to work with our partners to get it under control.
In 15 minutes, the curfew drops, and anybody who's still out will be in violation of the curfew. Will they be arrested?
Our police are moving, and we'll work with not just the D.C. police. We have called in to support D.C. streets and the U.S. Capitol response. Our neighbors, as well as the D.C. National Guard. I've requested the Guard from Maryland and Virginia to also come in. So people will be held accountable. We want everybody to move out and to move out quickly, but the curfew will be enforced.
So is that a yes? They will be arrested? I mean, the Metropolitan Police Department has been told that if these protesters are still there after the curfew, they will be arrested?
They are going to deploy in a safe way and enforce the D.C. curfew.
So that's a yes?
Well, I can't tell you every single strategy that the police are going to use, but they have the curfew as a tool to move people out.
Has anybody been arrested today? Do you know?
There have been many arrests today and yesterday. I don't have the full readout of the number of arrests. We expect to provide that by this evening.
The entire D.C. National Guard has been activated. Do you have the resources you need, Mayor Bowser, to keep Washington, D.C. safe, to get control of the Capitol?
We have been in touch with, we're working with many of federal resources, including the guards from a number of states that I just mentioned, and we will continue to get the resources that we need throughout the night.
President Trump released a video. He told his supporters to go home, but he also expressed sympathy for them. He said he loved them. He also continued his blatant lies about the election. Do you think that video was helpful, or did it end up throwing more fuel on the fire?
Well, the fuel has been thrown on this fire for 4 straight years, and certainly in the last week, we've heard this president, outgoing president, other current elected officials incite violence, and we see the results of that violence. So I didn't get a chance to see the video, but we continue to urge the president to tell his supporters that they are putting police officers, innocent people in harm's way, and they need to go home.
Do you know anything about the shooting today on Capitol Hill? A woman was shot. Is she okay? Do you know, was she one of the rioters, or was she someone else?
I Jake, that matter is under investigation, and we can't confirm the details at this time.
Is there anything you can tell us about the pipe bombs that have been reported having been found outside the Republican National Committee, the DNC, and the U.S. Capitol?
We know that we responded to credible reports of at least 2 incendiary devices. I can't give you any specifics about them right now.
Is there anything more you want to tell anybody watching this who might be in Washington, D.C. right now?
We're telling, and our residents have heeded our guidance to stay at home. We want everybody protesting and rioting on the Capitol grounds and anywhere else to go home, and they need to start moving out right now.
All right, we see some people moving. I don't know if they're moving out right now. I certainly hope that they are. Mayor Bowser, best of luck battling this. I know in addition to this, you have the COVID crisis you're dealing with. You need this like you need another hole in your head. Thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
I mean, one of the things that I think looking at these images, he's going to be president for 2 more weeks, and can the United States last that 2 weeks with him as president of the United States? This is somebody who has not only turned a blind eye to a deadly pandemic that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. Yesterday was the deadliest day in the U.S. for the coronavirus pandemic since it began. But we have a president now inciting violence and praising those who commit acts of violence. And I think it has to be asked, does the vice president, does the cabinet need to step in, invoke the 25th Amendment, and remove him from office before he wreaks even more damage? Abby, you and I were talking. Jay Timmons, former Republican operative, now the head of the National Association of Manufacturing, put out a statement today saying that Pence should think about invoking the 25th Amendment.
I mean, we've already heard that the acting Secretary of Defense spoke not with President Trump, but with Vice President Pence about deploying the National Guard to the streets of D.C. to protect the Capitol. Why would that be the case? We have a sitting United States president who is supposed to be on the job and apparently is not. And I think that this is a real concern. It should be a concern for Congress. It should be a concern for Pence, for the people who are still working in that building at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This is a president who is absent in a moment of crisis, and beyond absent, has instigated this moment of crisis. You know, I live in Washington, D.C. Watching what is going on in the Capitol is really unbelievable. I have seen all kinds of things happen at this Capitol building, at this Capitol compound. I've never seen what seems to be such a lack of control over the situation. It seems almost that even in your conversation, Jake, with Mayor Bowser, that she's very carefully threading this line between what she can control, which are the forces under her command, and what the federal government is responsible for.
But she wouldn't criticize.
And she would not criticize. No. Yeah. She would not criticize the federal government. But she's in such a tenuous position. Who is going to establish order, or to quote President Trump, law and order on the streets of Washington, D.C.? This is really important because they have stormed the Capitol. Yeah. They have put people in danger. People today have been seriously injured or potentially worse, and we have not gotten a sense that there is really anybody in charge.
And as you were interviewing Mayor Bowser, we got word that the Virginia governor issued a curfew for the D.C. suburbs in Virginia, Alexandria, and Arlington, also 6 p.m. So we're talking, about 8 minutes from now. There's supposed to be a curfew in place there as well. Another thing that we've got some reporting on, of course, all of this is happening, and what is on hold is the very big, very important constitutional duty that the United States Congress has, that they were in the middle of doing when all of this happened, which is to certify the Electoral College and to make it even more official that Joe Biden will be president and will be inaugurated on January 20th. Behind the scenes, because these senators and House members are in undisclosed locations, a lot of them are together, and there are conversations going on. And I am told, and Manu Raju was told similar, that particularly in the Senate, because as we talked about earlier, you need if a House member is going to raise an objection, they need a companion to Senate or to stop the proceedings and have 2 hours of debate. That Democrats and some Republicans are trying to convince the Republicans who had planned to object to the next states after Arizona. We knew that it was Georgia. We knew that it was Pennsylvania. Trying to convince them, okay, enough, back down. Clearly, the point was made, and we need to move on, and we need to wrap this up. The plan is still to try to get back into the Senate tonight, to get back onto the House floor tonight, but those conversations are happening as we speak.
Yeah, it's the
We're safe. We are in a secure location. We are there's lots of law enforcement officers here, and in a bit of good news, after a chaotic day, law enforcement is now telling the Capitol, telling people in the Capitol building is now secure. So they feel that the building is now secure. There's a message coming from the Senate and House Sergeant at Arms. They are the key officials who ensure that the security of this building. So after rioters stormed the building, damaged the property, and created havoc, and engaged in violent confrontations with police, now law enforcement believes that the Capitol building is now secure. So what does that mean going forward? Going forward, it means that they are pushing to get back to their business, to do what they were supposed to do at the onset of the day, which is, of course, the electoral vote certification. I'm told from various House and Senate sources that there is a major push to get this done tonight, to go through the proceedings on both sides in the House and Senate, to go through all the, if there are still objections, to go through those objections. And as Dana just noted, there is pressure building on these House members and some senators who want to object and drag the proceedings out. Republicans are leaning on some of these members to say, drop the objections. We've just been through this chaotic situation. Let's show the country we're united and get through this quickly. I just had a chance to talk to Senator Roger Wicker, who spent a long portion of the day in an undisclosed location with other senators as they have been in a secure spot. I asked him, are you urging your fellow Republicans to drop this effort? Wicker said, we are trying to expedite things. Other senators have made that very clear as well. So Jake, bit of good news. Capitol building is now secure, and they can hopefully go forward with the business, and we'll see how quickly they're able to do it. No word yet on whether those individual senators who want to object, whether they'll continue to do so, but clearly pressure is building after this chaotic day to show some unity here in Capitol Hill. Jake.
Yeah, it's just surreal. I feel like I'm talking to a correspondent reporting from Bogota. The Capitol has been secured. Wolf?
Yeah, it's a dramatic moment. The D.C. curfew is about to take effect 3.5 minutes or so from now, but I see a lot of people still walking around Capitol Hill. You know, local police, the National Guard personnel, they're going to be focusing primarily around Capitol Hill, trying to get these people off the streets. But it's a really, really dangerous situation that's unfolding right now. We heard the mayor, Jake, in her interview.
Hey, Wolf, yes, there are a whole lot of people still here in front of the police line at the Capitol, perhaps ironically listening to a Beatles song, All You Need Is Love. We've seen very little of that today. These folks clearly will not get back to their homes or hotels by the 6 p.m. Curfew this evening, and we have seen some more police movement in the past few minutes. Police gently trying to push people a little bit further. We've seen some additional police come here to the line, and we're not quite sure what is going to play out here at 6 p.m. But certainly, as far as I could see here, there are dozens, perhaps over 100. I can see at least probably 100 people in my line of sight here, but there may be many more, and they have looked like they have no intention of going anywhere, Wolf, by this curfew.
Donia, have you seen police actually arresting individuals who may have broken the law, trespassed, broken windows, entered secure areas? Or are the police, based on what you've seen, simply trying to disperse these individuals and telling them to get out of there?
Yeah, it looks for the most part that they are just trying to disperse these people peacefully. We did see a little scuffle with police a few minutes ago on the far side of the police line here. Somebody who seemed not to be cooperating. They were actually still coming off the lawn of the Capitol, and they seem to be the final few people, at least from what we can see on our side, the trespassers to be evicted from the lawn. But, you know, as you can see here, Wolf, a whole lot of people, whole lot of MAGA hats, all these people who supposedly love the police do not want to comply with the police orders tonight. And things, as we approach this curfew, we may see some movement in the next few minutes. Wolf?
Yeah, this curfew is going to affect in a few seconds from now. Let's see what happens. Let's see if the police actually move in. Alex Marquardt, you're in a different location. Are folks ignoring the curfew where you are as well?
They are ignoring the curfew. Wolf, I just want to piggyback on what Donny was saying, that there are a large number of Trump supporters here. I will say they are entirely peaceful at the moment. There is this long line of Metropolitan Police, so that's the Washington, D.C. police, who in the past half hour have slowly, methodically, peacefully pushed these Trump supporters back from the Capitol. You can see the western side of the White House, of the Capitol building, excuse me, that has been entirely cleared. Wolf, that entire lawn this afternoon was filled with people. Now, as we have gotten closer to the curfew, we have seen that area cleared. So a lot of this crowd, the vast majority, I would say, of this crowd that was out here this afternoon has melted away. But there is still a large number who have gathered down here. If you know Washington, D.C., this is the Capitol reflecting pool. And at least for now, Wolf, they show no sign of going home. There has been some tear gas fired. Our colleagues have seen that. We have seen that throughout the afternoon. There are a lot of riot police in full riot gear with gas masks. The ones that you're looking at now do not have that same sort of gear. So it's a bit of a mix. This has been a cooperative effort between local police departments, not just from Washington, D.C., but also from Virginia and Maryland, as well as their federal counterparts, U.S. Capitol Police up in the Capitol, as well as various federal agencies, and, of course, the National Guard that we now know has been fully mobilized by Mayor Bowser. This curfew now in effect. Well, if you've been asking about arrests, if we go by past precedent, when we've seen curfews in the past, that doesn't necessarily mean they're just going to start arresting people on site because they're out and about, but that certainly could happen as the evening wears on and people stay out. So the curfew is now in effect, but these Trump supporters, many of them, still out here, Wolf.
Yeah, it's an awful situation. The curfew now is in effect, but I don't see the police going about starting to tell these people they're going to be about to be arrested for violating the curfew. They should not be on the streets of Washington, D.C. right now. They should be heading to their hotels or to their homes or someplace else, or just get out of the area, because the curfew, D.C. curfew, is now in effect. John King just got a statement. Let me read a sentence or two from the former President George W. Bush. Actually, you have it, John. Go ahead and read the statement for us.
Well, if I will read it, and it is striking, just the contrast of the last Republican president, George W. Bush, compared here to the current Republican president, Donald Trump. Laura and I are watching the scenes of mayhem and unfolding at the seat of our nation's government in disbelief and dismay, former President Bush says. It is a sickening and heartbreaking sight. This is how election results are disputed in a banana republic, not our democratic republic. I am appalled by the reckless behavior of some political leaders since the election, and by the lack of respect shown today for our institutions, our traditions, and our law enforcement. The violent assault on the Capitol and disruption of a constitutionally mandated